Breaking news today, CNN reports that President Trump is losing support among independent voters. However, it raises the question, when was the last time they highlighted the approval ratings of Democrats? Is this a genuine warning sign or merely another media-driven distraction from the failures in Washington?
Hello, and welcome to That News Show, where we discuss the latest facts, fakes, and hypocrisy as reported by the legacy media. Let's roll the tape.
CNN is reporting a significant decline in President Trump's support among independent voters. It's worth asking, when was the last time the media highlighted Democrats losing support? Tonight's news suggests that independent voters are deserting the president in new numbers. But is this the complete story, or merely another attempt to stir panic among conservatives and divert attention from the previous administration's failures, such as record inflation, unsecured borders, endless foreign conflicts, and a globalist agenda that has overlooked working Americans? While the focus on independent voters is important, it's equally crucial to pursue the whole truth. Let's get into this.
29 points. That is a drop of over 25 points with the key part of the electorate. If you're not winning among independents, you're probably not winning overall. And when your net approval rating's minus 29 points, you're definitely not winning overall when you're that low with independents.
It's just the size of the drop.
When the net approval rating among independents drops by more than 25 points, it's a clear indication that the message isn't resonating. It's not just a temporary dip. Independents are crucial to any national coalition, and the Republican Party must urgently examine why it's losing ground with these voters. The establishment has often overlooked the priorities of working Americans, focusing instead on global agendas and prolonged foreign engagements that fail to strengthen our communities. While media outlets like CNN tend to highlight Republican setbacks and overlook similar trends among Democrats, it's important to note that Democrats in Congress are also experiencing near-record low approval ratings. This is largely due to years of economic missteps and poorly managed border policies that have adversely affected American families. The mess left by the previous administration's mishandling of these issues is still being addressed by the current administration despite facing constant criticism from the same media and political figures who previously endorsed those failures. Inflation remains a significant concern for voters. Although prices are still high, it's crucial to recognize that this issue stems from past fiscal irresponsibility and regulatory excesses under Democratic leadership. Fortunately, the current administration is challenging the Federal Reserve and advocating for policies that prioritize American workers, even though these efforts have yet to be fully reflected in the polls. Democrats, meanwhile, are trying to divert attention from their record by highlighting scandals and launching attack ads, aiming to shift the focus from the economy and border security. Focus groups indicate that while these tactics may influence some independents, most are more concerned with the cost of living and the overall direction of the country. The Republican base remains strong, continuing to get widespread support on key issues like immigration and the restoration of American values. Both parties' establishments need to realize that Americans are weary of the status quo in Washington. If Republicans hope to regain the support of independents, they must commit to an America First agenda that shuns globalist trade deals, avoids unnecessary wars, and prioritizes the interests of Main Street over those of the donor class. Polls can change rapidly, especially as the failures of the previous administration and the Democratic Party become more evident in everyday life.
At minus 29 points, he has broken his own record for the worst on record. As I said at the beginning, there appears to be no fall, and Trump is certainly falling through that floor.
So during the Biden administration, I think there was a lot of thinking that maybe enough focus wasn't being paid to the effect that inflation had on people's thinking. And it may very well be that inflation's playing a bigger role in opinions than we recognize.
Yeah, so inflation in my mind was what cost Joe Biden the presidency more than any other factor, and it brought him down.
Polling numbers among independents may currently appear unfavorable, but it's crucial to recognize that mainstream media often exaggerate these fluctuations to fit their narratives, particularly with populist or outsider candidates. Despite sensational headlines, the current administration has achieved what its predecessor could not. Core inflation has stabilized at just over 2%, for the first time since the last Democratic administration's spending increases drove prices up. Additionally, wage growth is accelerating, and the cost of essentials like vehicles, airfares, and energy is decreasing, providing working Americans with much-needed financial relief. Both parties' establishments should focus on what truly matters to voters: living costs, border security, and the revival of American manufacturing. Instead, the opposition and their media allies are diverting attention from their failures by highlighting scandals and launching attack ads, aiming to shift the discourse away from critical kitchen table issues. Although some independents might temporarily be influenced by these tactics, data indicates that the majority remain concerned with the economy and the country's direction. Republicans must adhere to the America First agenda that has attracted numerous new supporters. This involves rejecting globalist trade deals that undermine our industries, avoiding involvement in perpetual foreign conflicts, and prioritizing Main Street's interests over those of the donor class. Ignoring these priorities could lead to repeating past errors and losing the critical support needed to maintain a strong majority. While polls can be unpredictable, especially far from an election, the fundamentals are changing. As the economic improvement becomes more visible in daily life, and as the shortcomings of the previous administration become less relevant, expect both the narrative and the polling numbers to shift. The opposition's focus on scandals indicates a lack of confidence in their record and future vision. The real challenge for Republicans will be to concentrate on the issues that matter most to Americans and avoid reverting to unsuccessful past policies.
Is the Trump team worried about this?
Well, I mean, I do think if you have talked to Democrats, and you guys have talked to more of the members of the Hill than I have, but Democratic sources, I mean, it's been a pretty demoralizing 6 or 8 months since the election, right? Watching Trump sort of come in and do what he's done, and in some ways not having much ability to resist his agenda, sort of struggling with what the message should be. I think this is really the first time I've seen in the Trump world a sense that they've lost a little bit of control of the narrative in the presidency. For like the last 2 weeks, I was talking to someone yesterday who was saying to me, you know, Trump has this sort of supernatural ability to often change the topic.
CNN's coverage of the president's recent polling numbers among independents shows a pattern of selective emphasis and questionable objectivity. While it accurately reports a significant drop in approval among independents, now under 30%, it overlooks the broader political context. This includes the simultaneous decline in support for Democrats whose congressional approval ratings are also near historic lows. The network often fails to mention that the dissatisfaction in Washington is bipartisan, stemming from years of unsuccessful policies by both major parties, not just the current administration. But NN's analysis tends to highlight Republican weaknesses while downplaying independents' disapproval of Democratic leadership on key issues like inflation, border security, and foreign policy challenges left by the previous administration. CNN's use of expert panels and focus groups does offer insights, yet the selection of sources and framing of questions often support the network's editorial bias. For instance, the coverage of the Epstein scandal, while relevant, is portrayed in a manner that suggests a Democratic strategy to divert attention from more pressing policy discussions. Despite emphasizing concerns about transparency, CNN underreports that most people are more worried about the economy and living costs than political scandals. Visually, CNN's graphics are clear and accessible, yet the storytelling emphasizes negative trends and historical comparisons, intensifying the perceived crisis for the current administration without equally highlighting the disarray within the Democratic caucus or their struggles with economic messaging. A more balanced approach would dig in deeper into why independents are disillusioned with both parties and how Washington's establishment figures have neglected the primary concerns of working Americans. The coverage often portrays the current administration's challenges as unique, overlooking the cyclical nature of political discontent and the volatility of polling numbers far from an election. The reality is that the Republican base remains solid, with nearly 90% approval, and the Democratic base is firmly opposed. The real issue is the growing frustration with the entire political class, not just with the president or the Republican Party. For Republicans to reconnect with independents, they should reject the failed globalist consensus, prioritize domestic issues, and avoid prolonged foreign conflicts that do not benefit American communities. CNN's coverage would improve with more transparency about its editorial decisions and a thorough investigation into the root causes of voter dissatisfaction. Until then, the narrative may continue to favor the political establishment over the concerns of the American people.
Going from a disaster to a problem area, but at least one he's comfortable talking about.
There was an extraordinary scene yesterday with him going to the Federal Reserve, right, and sort of haranguing the chair of the Federal Reserve on camera. I mean, when's the last time we've seen a president go to the Federal Reserve and challenge a Federal Reserve chair on camera, put a hard hat on, and then do a press conference calling on him to lower rates? I mean, it was not exactly subtle what he was trying to accomplish there. I mean, that was certainly an effort to move to another topic.
A sitting president visiting the Federal Reserve, donning a hard hat, and publicly urging the chair to lower interest rates certainly creates a spectacle. It highlights the intense pressure Washington faces from persistent inflation and the resulting frustration on Main Street. For most families, the impact of high rates is tangible, evident in mortgage payments, car loans, and credit card bills. Elevated rates constrict household budgets, slow down home buying, and hinder small business expansion. The construction sector, for instance, has experienced project delays and layoffs, while first-time homebuyers find themselves priced out of the market. Although savers might enjoy slightly better returns, this is small consolation when the cost of groceries and utilities continues to rise. The Federal Reserve's dual mandate is to ensure maximum employment and stable prices. Yet when inflation expectations become volatile, the Fed must navigate a precarious balance. Recent statements from the chair indicate that tariffs and other policy changes have driven inflation forecasts up by over half a point since last winter, a significant increase primarily due to trade policies aimed at protecting American industries from unfair international competition. While these policies are crucial after decades of globalist agreements that undermined our manufacturing sector, they also introduce short-term economic challenges. It's essential to mitigate these challenges so they don't disproportionately impact working Americans. Coverage often overlooks how various economic sectors are adapting to these changes. Manufacturing is experiencing a revival thanks to tariffs and reshoring efforts, whereas service industries and tech are vulnerable to interest rate increases. Small businesses, the backbone of local communities, face higher borrowing costs and tighter margins. Families are forced to make difficult decisions, cutting back on discretionary spending, postponing major purchases, and hunting for bargains. This backdrop explains why calls for lower interest rates resonate deeply with voters, despite the unconventional optics of a hard-hat press conference. Despite the noise from partisan media and the constant focus on political scandals, the core issue remains: Americans desire economic stability and policies that prioritize their needs. The previous administration's reckless spending and regulatory excess set the stage for current inflationary pressures, leaving the current administration to address these issues amidst harsh criticism from the same outlets that previously endorsed those policies. The Federal Reserve's cautious stance is understandable, yet there's a growing perception among working Americans that Washington experts are disconnected from the everyday challenges facing families and small businesses. As the debate over interest rates continues, it's crucial to remember that the real economy isn't just a set of numbers on a chart. It's about whether a young family can afford their first home, whether a small business owner can secure a loan to expand, and whether seniors on fixed incomes can manage rising costs. Our focus must remain on policies that strengthen American communities, reject failed globalist policies, and restore confidence in our economic future. That's another interesting spin by the news media. The real crisis in our country isn't what the corporate press would have you believe. It's not a distant conflict or the latest media frenzy. It's the visible decay, our chaotic cities, families barely scraping by, and a ruling class fixated on global agendas rather than the well-being of Americans. The previous administration left us with open borders, endless wars, and economic downturns, all while preaching about democracy. Now, with President Trump at the helm, we have a leader who prioritizes American interests and stands firm against foreign pressures. Consider who really benefits from the fear, division, and distractions. It certainly isn't you. The truth is clear. America's future hinges on us rejecting the failed globalist agenda and holding our representatives accountable. If we fail to do so, we risk losing the very essence of our nation, not to foreign enemies, but to the apathy and arrogance of our own elites. Be sure to comment below, give a like, and subscribe. This is just the beginning. Stay tuned for the next one.